Due to length, I will recap the accident posts and discussion of the history with brother-in-law. Original poster's husband was hit by a car while on an e-bike and asked for advice about his condition. He was complaining of severe headaches and toothaches. He has a history of a rare brain aneurysm as a child. He also had very high blood pressure. He also had dizziness and personality changes, according to original poster. Update: the husband has been having mental health issues since the accident. Original poster has been keeping his mom updated, but she lives across the country. When her husband was a kid, he had a blood clot that damaged his eye. His mother knows this medical history well, so original poster really wants mother-in-law here to help in this scary time. Brother-in-law was around for 2 days, but then lost interest and left. Original poster says he's a jerk. Mother-in-law makes plans to come to see original poster's husband, and he perks up visibly. Original poster talks to her husband's aunt about it, but doesn't get specific details. Suddenly, mother-in-law says she's driving back from her sister's house to visit brother-in-law, but hasn't come to see husband yet, which makes original poster and her husband sad. It turns out the airport mother-in-law came in from is closer to original poster and her husband, but she chose to drive 2.5 hours to visit her sister and other son, granddaughter instead. Mother-in-law says she would see him later, but then blows him off hours later, saying she's tired. Original poster's husband says it's okay, but breaks down crying, which is out of character. Original poster wonders if she would be a crap if she tells mother-in-law she's putting her husband last by not coming to visit him when he's not doing well. Original poster says that brother-in-law is the favored child because OOP's husband got too much attention as a kid due to the injury, being sick, and their mom tried to make up for it. Brother-in-law is also a drug addict, and his girlfriend was as well. They both lost custody of their daughter. Brother-in-law's aunt, mother-in-law's sister, has temporary custody right now. Original poster also lost her own mother, so she's struggling with balancing her feelings with what her husband needs at the moment. Am I wrong for wanting to punch my brother-in-law in the face? Original poster explains the brother-in-law's history of drug use, narcissism, manipulation, and mental health issues. In the past, he has been involved with several women who died due to overdoses, and according to brother-in-law, is to blame. Brother-in-law also got his current girlfriend addicted to drugs, and they lost custody of their daughter because she overdosed. She survived. Original poster says she has a permanent neurological disorder due to a fight, due to an injury he gave her, due to a headbutt where he cracked her head open. She says brother-in-law takes advantage of mother-in-law by getting her to give him money, free rent, plane tickets, etc. Brother-in-law claims her husband is favored because he was sick as a child, while brother-in-law was a second child who wasn't wanted, though original poster claims it was the opposite. Original poster asks if she's wrong for wanting to punch him because he has been making progress in therapy and reduced his drug use, supposedly getting better with the goal of getting custody of his daughter back. Original poster thinks mother-in-law only went to see brother-in-law first because brother-in-law whined about favoritism or wanting to off himself. Original poster says, I suspect this because when my husband was in the hospital, you could see the dollar signs jumping from my brother-in-law's eyes once he heard there was a brain bleed, but then got angry and left once the hospital said they were sending my husband home and hasn't talked to us since. Update. Well, I said something only after everything spiraled, and now my husband is back in ICU, waiting for CT scan results again. My brother-in-law is sitting in the police station. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law are at a separate hospital emergency room, and I'm just sitting here, staring at my husband with his aunt hovering around, and I just don't know what to do anymore. Update. Shortly after my last update, my husband went in for another CT scan and things were looking good. No growth of the bleed whatsoever, so he was on a 6-hour watch until his next CT to see if he could be labeled stable again. He made it 2 hours before having another grand mal seizure, luckily only lasting 2 minutes total. They weren't sure whether to give another CT right away due to a possible cluster, so after an hour or so, he went off for another CT. They also prepped the helicopter in case it was needed to fly him to the bigger city an hour away so that he could get surgery there, as the hospital we were at wasn't equipped for that. Turns out that the seizure opened the hole, and now the bleed was massive. It had reached 5.3 centimeters and was leaking towards his ventricles. My husband was somehow conscious and his eyes were open, but he definitely was not all there and could barely speak. He did recognize me though, and he was able to remember and say our special goodbye that we say to each other before they took him off to the helicopter. I wanted to go with him, but they told me it would be better if I could drive because my weight would slow them down and they needed the space. I called crap, but didn't want to fight them too much, and left with Kate, my mother-in-law's sister, as I am not able to drive. On the way to the city, I called my mother-in-law to see what was going on with sister-in-law and informed them of the situation, as I had directly been ignoring their texts for the most part because I'd been staring at my husband for hours on end. Mother-in-law freaked out and said she was already on the road and that she would be on the way to the city as well. She also informed me sister-in-law was with her and would be coming with, who then took the phone to inform me brother-in-law was staying in jail for DV and drug possession, as he had his daily dose of shenanigans in his pocket at the time of his arrest. Sister-in-law also let me know that she was fine and that she just needed some stitches around her eyebrow because some glass cut her face. By the time I got to the hospital in the city, my husband was already in surgery. The plan, I guess, was to stop the bleeding from the source itself and try to remove some of the built-up blood because it was creating too much pressure on his brain. He had another seizure on the helicopter ride, and the bleed was even bigger, although they either never told me the size or I didn't even soak that in at that point. But at this point, the only thing that I could do was wait out the surgery and see what would happen next. I'm no stranger to waiting for close family to hopefully survive awful and life-threatening situations and surgeries. It's like a curse that has followed me since I was 4. Death follows me like the plague, and other than my husband, I only have my dad left as a living family. I prayed death would take the damn day off. My mother-in-law got to the hospital about half an hour after Kate and I. She was in hysterics, apologizing to me and Kate and begging the doctors to let her into the surgery room at first, but then acquiescing when told it was too late to see him. I told her she needs to tone it down, and she's lucky I've even let her know where he is or what's even going on considering how she's been acting, and I honestly spent a good hour sitting there tearing into this woman. I loved my mother-in-law and felt so hurt that she left my husband high and dry to cater to a monster. I hated her for using our softer sides against us to drag us to my brother-in-law's house and into a living damn nightmare. She listened tearfully and ate every word I dished to her. I didn't feel better afterward whatsoever. She was an absolute wreck and I could see it. Years of worry for my husband, dread and regret, sadness and understanding. She looked very broken, and it made me feel so much worse. She's helped us so much for years. She housed us for free while we struggled for work, fed us with no questions, gave us rides and support in all times of need. Hell, this woman taught me to crochet, which is my favorite thing to do in this world besides my husband. Insert quirky laughter here, I'm currently too tired. So when she responded to me with what she did, I honestly wasn't surprised and a little pissed at myself for not seeing it in the first place and yelling at her as hard as I did. My mother-in-law and my sister-in-law have been working for the past year to get my niece adopted by my mother-in-law behind brother-in-law's back, along with all of our backs as well, because they wanted as few people to know as possible for the safety of my sister-in-law. When my sister-in-law overdosed a year ago and they lost custody of my niece, I guess when she was taken away, there were lots of stipulations to get her back. And while my sister-in-law has gone through recovery and everything beautifully, my brother-in-law was uncompliant and making the process complicated for no reason. He also was completely unresponsive and still is unresponsive to all correspondences and calls from CPS, so did not know of any of the proceedings even though they sent him forms to sign. My mother-in-law had flown them out to give them a vacation to hopefully restart their mentalities so she could get them started on a new path to life and hopefully get my brother-in-law to become compliant. And I guess she made this decision when my brother-in-law responded by stealing her car to roam around the city to find drugs and came back belligerent and abusive. So, all the secrecy of this specific trip was because things were being finalized this week. The paperwork was signed the day of what I will call the incident, and my mother-in-law wanted all of us to get together that night so she could break the news to my brother-in-law, and so we could hopefully celebrate. She feels horrible for what happened, and even somehow feels bad that my brother-in-law still doesn't know yet because he has the right to since he's her father. I want to be there when he's told, and his brain implodes honestly. I die of laughter in the parking lot. I asked her why she bothered and why not report brother-in-law sooner since she knew what was going on, and she responded that she didn't want to mess up the adoption. I told her that was extremely irresponsible and that sister-in-law was at such a high risk, but sister-in-law assured me that she wouldn't have had it any other way and that things worked out perfectly. Well, other than my husband. She didn't mean that maliciously, she meant it factually. Nobody planned for my husband to decline so badly all of a sudden, which led to my sister-in-law to go into helper mode, which made my brother-in-law jealous. According to sister-in-law, he suspects she's cheating with my husband, which led to all of the events that unfolded until now so far. After all their explanations, I honestly was just numb. Didn't know what to feel or think. I still kind of don't. I'm horrendously angry at both of them, and they both admitted that it doesn't excuse their fault in this. Nor is my mother-in-law absolved from her crimes of abandoning her son in his time of need, and they've been saints since to repent. But I don't even know if I can be mad at them anymore. I know that they needed to dance around my brother-in-law, so that's understandable. I just wish they would let us know. They didn't, because we are usually naturally less contact, so they didn't see the point in saying anything. Bad excuse, and now my husband gets to suffer for their incompetence. I told my mother-in-law and sister-in-law they're lucky I don't press charges against them, and they agreed that's fair, and that they deserve whatever crap comes their way. 8 hours after going in, my husband came out of surgery alive. Thank damn. They supposedly closed the source of the bleed, but there was a lot more blood than was originally realized, and it created a lot of pressure, and I honestly don't care to type out all the medical crap they told me. But pretty much due to the scar tissue and permanent damage that was already present on my husband's optical nerves from his childhood clot, aneurysm, the pressure from the bleed created a massive strain on said optical nerves. And with the way things are, my husband is blind and will be for the time being until the inflammation from surgery and bleeding is absorbed. Hopefully. My husband opened his eyes yesterday afternoon, unable to see entirely. He previously had 1.5 eyes worth of sight, and now he has none. He only remembers getting pizza and saying goodbye to me. Everything else in between was empty space. He's having a lot of neurological issues so far, obviously, and his speech is extremely slurred, but he is alive, cognitive, and has motor function. He remembers me and his mother and remembers our special words and handhold. He is luckily still my husband so far. This is not his first time being blind, and he is surprisingly okay with it for now at least. He says it's kind of nostalgic in a way. I didn't want to worry him, but he kept asking questions, so I told him everything that had been going on from beginning to end. He fell asleep as I was telling him the story, and when he awoke later when the nurse came in to check on him, he asked for the rest. I know he needs to be resting, but my husband is the type of person who needs to know. He is an informational index that needs to constantly be fed, and it ends him to not know things and have answers withheld from him. I am so happy he is alive. Mother-in-law is extending her stay and will be staying with me in the city along with sister-in-law. And they're paying for my hotel. Kate will be leaving in 2 days when the vacation is supposed to be over, as she can't miss work. She has a high-security job. We're all waiting for news on brother-in-law and on the hospital that did the original surgery when my husband was a child, to see if anyone from the team might still possibly be in practice and have some insight as to where to go from here. There's a lot of personal things I left out because this case is very rare and has this teaching hospital in a frenzy. My husband's childhood event was a rare situation, so this is something that's never happened before, so far from what they told us. Little update. Not much to say so far, other than my husband is still in the hospital and is still blind. They've contacted some of the old neurologists from his childhood, but haven't gotten anywhere with research yet. The bleed hasn't grown, but the swelling hasn't gone down much either. His blood pressure has been stable at least. My mother-in-law had to go home. She was not happy about it, but she is planning to move back across the country to stay nearby, rather than move my niece to her house, as was the original plan before all this. She already has called a realtor to look at a house in the area as well, so she's all in on this, I guess. Therefore, she needed to go back with her partner. He has been with her the whole time since she returned with sister-in-law from the hospital, to pack up their stuff and get things settled. I've been keeping her updated. She's been gone for 3 days so far and is due back sometime next week or so. My niece will remain at my aunt-in-law's house until she returns. My sister-in-law is staying with me from now on. I haven't been home minus to grab some stuff for my husband, so she's been staying there to help take care of my dad. He's elderly but still mostly independent, and my cats as well. Honestly, she's been an absolute saint. Luckily, her job is very flexible, so she has been able to take lots of time off for now while she helps, which I severely appreciate. Plus, this all keeps her mind off of what's been going on with brother-in-law. I don't know. I've just been working with my husband and the therapists and doctors every day, while also managing everything legally with the lawyers regarding the accident that started all this mess and all that jazz. It's been oh so fun. I'm fine though. No need to worry about Moy. I've been enjoying this time with my husband the best I can. He's still definitely suffering many neurological complications that keep changing day to day, so it's hard to tell what's going to happen next, so we're just taking everything one day at a time. Oh, and brother-in-law's first trial was rescheduled. He tried to end himself in holding when sister-in-law contacted him to let him know what was going on with my husband, so they have him in some sort of mental health evaluation, hold for now or something. Sister-in-law didn't explain it well, and I don't feel like researching right now. He doesn't know about my niece yet either. Sister-in-law decided to wait until he's seen someone to talk to first, like a therapist. I told her to just get it over with, and she's considering it. I'll post again if anything happens. Happy doom scrolling. Big update. Now to the update. It's been really hard trying to figure out how to write this, but talking with the physicians and workers here, they thought it might be all right if I at least got everything out at once while fulfilling a guilt I have by leaving you guys hanging. They, of course, are reading everything I am saying to make sure I'm not saying concerning things. Hi, Bill and Taisha. A week after my last update, my husband died due to the swelling in his brain. He was responding well to treatments originally, and the original bleed was no longer growing. He had no changes in his vision and was seeming neurologically stable, was talking and eating and joking and laughing and being him. But his brain started swelling like crazy until he seized to death in front of my eyes. They originally thought it was SUDEP until he started torrenting blood from his nose. It was all kind of sudden, and I could clearly hear him saying his last words to me in my ear over and over and over and over while watching him pretty much explode. Well, after that, I originally tried to jump off the hospital roof. Got stopped by security and then spent a few days in the mental ward of the hospital until the funeral. I was released to mother-in-law and sister-in-law, and we went to my husband's funeral service. He was cremated, and I received his ashes, and there was a really nice simple ceremony for him. He would have hated it and said it was unnecessary, but my mother-in-law was in charge of everything. That night, I left home after sister-in-law accidentally fell asleep. She was watching me, and I jumped off this pretty large bridge in my town. Unfortunately for me, someone saw me and pulled me out of the river before I fully drowned. I got sent back to the hospital, who sent me here to where I am now. I haven't been home in weeks. I just want to get out of here, but I now recognize that I am not the same enough to do that. I'm having auditory and visual hallucinations, and an event a few days ago woke me up a bit to that fact. I reached out to my sister-in-law, to apologize for being selfish and running away while she was watching me, but she was just glad I was okay. Her and mother-in-law have been over every day this week to keep me company. Only recently can have visitors. Mother-in-law isn't handling my husband's death well either, but she's seeing a therapist and is much more sane than I am so far. I don't remember most of the time between now and my husband's death. It's been completely shut off by my brain or something. I am still definitely not okay, and this is all definitely my fault, but don't tell Bill and Taisha I said that, please. Still trying to work on the guilts. Brother-in-law has apparently found Jesus after trying to end himself in holding, and in court he apparently thanked the judge for giving him 20 years. I don't know if it's an angle to get out sooner, but whatever. He's apparently gone full priest about it and everything. I honestly can't care right now. I know I'm evil. I know I'm selfish. I feel bad for leaving my dad and cats behind, but I can't be without my husband. Not after everything I've done wrong in life. I have to tell him sorry. I don't know if grief sucks. Don't worry, guys. No point in reporting me considering where I am and who's reading. Which, by the way, damn this system. Oh, you want to die and be left alone? Guess who gets to have literally no privacy whatsoever, even to damn pee and poo? Sorry, rant over. So yeah, that's the switch so far. We'll see how things go. I don't know if I'll post again in the future, but if I can respond to people's comments at a later time, I will. Depends on what I'm allowed to do and my own decisions going forward. Adulting is impossible when your world is gone. Update, still alive, self-explanatory. Still going through treatment. Things have not gotten better and have not changed. I can tell this facility is sick of my crap. I don't want to go home, but I don't want to be here. I want my husband. I want my life back. I want my world back. New observers today. Say hello to Amy and Eileen, everyone. Have a good day, everyone.